Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to another NJ Tribes. For those of you who are new, we are NJ Tribes. It's small business webinars created to help small businesses start, grow, and thrive. And today, I'm your host, Gloria Marabru, Assistant Coordinator here at NJSBDC. And we're basically New Jersey Small Business Development Centers Network, and we're a statewide program powered by the SBA and partners to help small businesses in New Jersey with three things: no-cost small businesses consulting, training and events starting at zero cost, and exclusive small businesses resources. Today, it's part of our NJ Tribe Tuesdays series, and we're basically here to help you register your business with zero NJSBDC support. So the agenda for today, we're going to go over some headlines, and then we're going to go over our wonderful presentation with our wonderful host, and then we're going to have our Q&A section. So I'm going to go over our headlines for this week, and I'm going to be dropping the links in the chat so you can have more information on those. So here we have, and please drop in the chat if you at any point can't see or hear anything clear. For the first headline, we have that SBA announces 2023 surety companies and agencies rankings. So if you're interested in that, I'll be dropping again the link in the chat for you to take a look and dive deeper into the article. And then our second headline for today is that Small Business Administration, SBA again, announces first season of small business campaign. So if you're interested to learn more about SBA's loan programs, financial assistance, and other services, you can definitely take a closer look to this link, same as the small business campaign that they're talking about in this article. And then third headline, and again, an SBA article, is that the SBA convenes third annual Innovation Ecosystem Summit. That's going to be tomorrow and Thursday. Super interesting. I'm going to be dropping the links in the chat in a few minutes. In the meantime, a few things to keep in mind. Please type your questions in the Q&A box. Try to drop them in the box just because we miss them if we type it in the chat. But if you need to tell us anything, you can definitely type that in the chat. We'll take care of that as soon as we can. And we're going to be answering your questions at the end of the webinar or the presentation. And also, please complete a 3-minute survey that we just shared with you. I'm going to be sharing that with you again, so you can receive the presentation and webinar resources. And without any further ado, today we're having Vanessa Schwartz once again. She's an NJSBDC consultant, and she's going to be helping all of us register our business. Vanessa, welcome to another NJ Tribe Tuesday.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gloria, for everything. Welcome, welcome. I am going to share my screen.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. For those who are attending, I'll be dropping the links in the chat for the headlines. And Vanessa, it's all yours.
Okay, excellent. And again, if there's any issues with hearing, please put something in the chat, and we'll hopefully try and address it. I think a couple of people may have had some issue with Gloria, but I hear her perfectly, so it might be something on your end. I'm not quite sure, but just stay in touch. Let us know what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. Again, thank you very much for joining. I know it's a busy time of year, but not a bad idea to kind of get a sense of what's going on so you're fresh and ready to go in the new year if you're looking to start, form, and register your business. We are the people here to do it with you, assist you with it, get it done at no cost to you, except for the cost for the state, which is not something we can do anything about, but we walk you through the process, make sure it's done right, and this is what we're going to be discussing today. So Whether you're someone who wants to take that hobby to the next level, or you're interested in pursuing that side hustle that you have been working on, or you're a professional in your own space and believe the time is right to start entrepreneurship, making the time to educate yourself on the process, the costs, the legal requirements, and any tax consequences, it's critical. And it can really make the difference between success and a slow start or even failure, unfortunately, for some small businesses. Okay. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about the business structure. We're going to focus primarily on the limited liability company, but we'll give a little background first. There are different business structures that you can choose from when deciding to create your business entity. There is a formation and a registration phase as part of forming and registering the business and getting started, as well as the need to obtain a tax ID number from the IRS. There are additional state regulations that are important to understand for certain industries. There is additional requirements, either whether they be licenses or registrations, and we'll get a little bit into that. Talk a little bit about income taxes and other maybe New Jersey taxes, such as state sales tax. Funding and cash management are important when starting a business. Knowing that you have the funding and that you can manage your cash properly as you get started. We'll address some additional needs that are often required as a small business starting out or in the process of running your business, and also how the NJSBDC can help you in through your next steps for opportunity and growth. So in discussing business structures, there's several types to consider. We'll start with the sole proprietorship. This is a very simple business structure that you can choose. Very often you might see someone just getting started out. Maybe it's a hobby. You'd like to get a trade name for what you're doing because you're marketing yourself. Perhaps you're ready to go ahead and register that business with the state. One way you can do it is through the sole proprietorship. It's done at the county clerk's office, your local county clerk's office. It's county-based. It's relatively inexpensive, probably about $50, $60 to get what we call a trade name certificate. You fill out an application for a trade name. There's a search that's done. I believe the name has to be unique within your county. You can use your social security number as your tax ID, but you don't have to. Very often times now, we always encourage businesses, even if just the sole proprietorship, maybe to go and seek that EIN from the IRS. EIN stands for Employer Identification Number. It's basically the social security number for your business. It doesn't cost anything. You apply directly at the IRS.gov website, and it allows you to obtain a tax ID for your business so that when you are transacting business, you're not throwing your social security number all around and risking potential hardships of having your social security number out there. Your personal banking is sufficient to run the business. You can use your personal banking account in order to deposit funds or received from transactions. You don't need a separate business banking account. The tax consequences are relatively simple. The income you receive from your business is passed through and reported through your personal tax return using a Schedule C attachment. It's relatively straightforward. You report your sales, your expenses, and ultimately your net income passes through to your personal income tax return. There's no legal separation between your assets, personal, and those of the business, so you're one and the same. Unfortunately, that comes with no liability protection. So you are at risk personally in running a business. If something were to happen, and you were to run into some sort of a debt situation or perhaps a lawsuit, your personal assets are at risk. which is the downside if you're going to have a sole proprietorship. Next up on the continuum, when you're, I guess, discussing liability protection, is that limited liability company, the LLC. Very popular, relatively inexpensive, $128 to form. There is a $75 per year annual dues requirement to maintain your LLC to keep you in good standing. You would be required to get a tax ID number from the IRS. Again, there's your EIN. It would be assigned to your LLC. The names would have to match from the IRS to the legal name of the LLC. You are required in this instance and forward that you would need a separate business bank account now. The assets from your business must remain separate from your personal. We are not permitted to commingle funds that you initially obtain from your business transactions with your personal accounts. Of course, once you have the account and the money is in your business banking, as owners of the business, you're permitted to withdraw and deposit money as needed. And the taxation, what's nice is if you are a single member LLC, not to be confused with a sole proprietorship, single member meaning one owner, you are also allowed to use that Schedule C tax attachment to your personal income tax, making it very simple. The IRS, well, the federal government does not have a designated separate tax policy for LLCs. It allows the business owners to choose how they wish to be taxed. And single member means owner, LLC owners are permitted to use the Schedule C tax payment. It's a pass-through directly to your personal income tax. If there's one or more members, usually we default to that Form 1065 filing. And then there is also the option to be taxed as a corporation, the S Corp primarily, which is the Form 1120. You have limited liability. You are protected in that the assets under the umbrella of the LLC are separate from your personal. But always keep in mind that how thick that veil is can be questionable. There is always potential for some sort of issue if there's, depending on the situation. But it does at least provide you that limited liability and that your personal assets should be free from risk from anything that would happen which falls under the umbrella of the LLC. Corporations are probably the strongest liability protection. It definitely requires much more in terms of paperwork and maintenance. There are bylaws required to be written up. You would need to create a board of directors. There will be shareholder meetings required. Sometimes people ask, why would a small business want to be a corporation and incorporate when there's all this extra work to do, especially if you're the only owner? It seems silly, but there are, in fact, small businesses that even if there is just one owner who decide to incorporate, a lot of it has to do with the liability protection and in what industry they may be in. You may see trucking businesses or general contractors, certain businesses that have more need for higher insurance thresholds and perhaps are more in line to contracting out with companies that would prefer only to deal with the corporation because of the liability protection. So you may see someone choose to incorporate for that reason. There is a separate tax return required for companies that are corporations. At the end of the day, when you file that tax return, the corporation in and of itself will owe taxes based on a corporate tax rate. And then whatever profits are left are divvied or handed out to the shareholders, and taxes will be paid to them through their dividend returns. So it's sometimes often referred to as a double taxation situation. Well, it is a double taxation situation. That could be tough for a small business. So we have then, since then, in the last, I guess, 40 years or so, the IRS allows for corporations to file for the S Corp status. It changes the tax protocol for the corporation. It avoids that double taxation. You're essentially allowed to pass through the income to your personal income tax, and it is often an option that you'd see a smaller business, a corporation, choose to be an S corp. There are some stipulations on types of shares you can issue and how many owners there are. But it is something worth looking into if you are somebody who's thinking to incorporate. LLC owners also get the choice to be taxed as an S corp. There are reasons why you may wish to do that. That is something that you would want to discuss with your accountant. Would it make you an S corp? You'd still be the LLC, but you do have that option. And I think like the biggest thing, the takeaway about that is that LLC owners pay self-employment taxes on their profits, and they're not employees of their company. When you're taxed, if you choose to be taxed as an S corp when you are the LLC, you now have the option to put yourself on payroll. It changes the tax dynamics and the withholdings, lowers your profits, and lowers your self-employment tax burden. But again, there is a certain formula that in a certain threshold probably that makes sense for each person individually, depending on how you file, if you file jointly, what your tax bracket is, something you'd want to discuss with your accountant. Okay, so we're going to move on to the limited liability company. We say get it right the first time. You are welcome to go out and pay a third party to help set this up, but we say, why do that when you can do it yourself and with our guidance? So we don't charge anything. We will sit with you, go through it, start to finish. Takes about an hour. We make sure you fill everything out correctly, that you understand all the terminology, that you familiarize yourself with the NJ portal. As business owners in New Jersey, you should be able to navigate that portal backwards and forwards, understanding where to go if you need certain documentation, where to go file your annual reports. Again, annual reports are just paying your dues. Once a year, you are required to pay $75. It is called filing an annual report, but there's no messy filing required. It sounds more tedious than it is. It's something you should do yourself. And we want to make sure you understand that it's just a matter of logging in and basically putting your credit or your debit card in, paying your dues, and you stay in good standing. We make sure you're set up properly, that your documents are organized, and we tell you, what is necessary, what you need to have, and basically just try to give you a good understanding of the types of bookkeeping records that you're going to have to keep now that you're business owners. Okay, so I said it takes about an hour to get this done. It is a 3-step process. We form the entity. We get you set up legally. We get a certificate of formation, and that's what costs the $128. That's what we're paying for when we form the business. But there is another step. We cannot forget to register the company with the Division of Revenue and Treasury, because that is what allows us to transact business in New Jersey for tax purposes. So the New Jersey Division of Revenue and Enterprise Services, that's the link. After the formation is done, after we've done that through the NJ portal, we make sure that we go and we register the business to actually be able to transact in New Jersey. This step gets overlooked all the time. It creates issues for business owners. We have seen a number of issues in the past, especially during COVID, when we were trying to help businesses get the funds and grants that have been put out by the federal government and the state. With respect to the SBA, if you weren't registered properly, you might have had an LLC and thought that you were properly ready, working and transacting business, but because you may never have registered the business in New Jersey, you weren't considered viable for and a business owner in order to receive the funding. So it's an important step. It's what's for me, what's very concerning is that I have witnessed many third-party practicing, companies that will take your business, get you formed, and never tell you or handle that piece of it. So a lot of times business owners, they never knew, but nobody ever told them. So we want to make sure that you understand that it's not just the process of getting that certificate of formation. You have to also register the business. We're going to be talking more about this in the new year, but just FYI, there are going to be some new federal requirements starting in 2024 for LLC owners. It will be an additional step to check in with the federal government to do this beneficial ownership report. We're still, there's a link there. If you get a copy of the slides, you can look into it, but we will be assisting our clients with this as the extra step now that it is necessary as LLC owners to stay in touch with the federal government to make sure. I think they want to have record. Well, I know they want to have record of who owns what with respect to your business structure and your entity. So what will you need to have in order to form your LLC? You will need a unique business in New Jersey. There's a link. You can do the search. You can see if your business is unique, the business name, that is. You will need an EIN from the IRS. That's a free process. It doesn't cost anything. We walk you through that process. We get your tax ID. We will need to figure out your NAICS code. That's an industry code that determines what business you will be pursuing, as well as the New Jersey industry code for your business. Doesn't mean that you can't have multiple businesses under your LLC umbrella. It just means the state would like to have an idea of what it is you're doing. So I often just tell people, what's your largest source of revenue from your business? And we just go with that one to put the code in. You'll need a registered agent. You can be your own registered agent. So it's simple. If you're a small business, you can serve as your own registered agent. It just basically is where all the correspondence comes to you from the state. But legally, there's the issue with having a registered agent is to make sure that there is a way that the government or the state can reach somebody in case they have to drop something off, whether it's legal documents or unfortunately maybe a lawsuit. There has to be somebody present. So it has to be a building with people. Some companies can serve as your registered agent. You can pay for that service if you don't wish to use your own personal address, but you do need a registered agent for the business. If you are more than one person, you need an operating agreement. Doesn't have to be done by a lawyer, but there needs to be an operating agreement in place between and among the members of the LLC, basically outlining the terms of the business, who owns what the profit sharing is, what the capital contributions might be, what your responsibilities might be, and if the business were to dissolve tomorrow, how would you break out the assets? Once again, it's $128, $125 plus the $350 processing fee to form the LLC. You can do it all online, debit or a credit card. Both are acceptable, as well as e-checks. And lastly, you'll need the names and addresses and social security numbers as well as the percent ownership of all the members in the LLC in order to form and register. when we get to the registration piece of the formation and registration, you'll be asked how you wish to be taxed. If you're one person, you can most likely just pick that single member LLC. More than one person typically would default to the Form 1065. And then if you so choose to be taxed as an S Corp, I believe that's the filing 1120. You can choose something and you can always change it down the road if circumstances change and you feel that there's another reason why you might alter how you wish to be taxed. You'll need to know if the sale of your goods and or services are subject to New Jersey state sales tax, which means that you might be able to make exempt purchases. If you're in retail and you're selling a good that is, say, subject to state sales tax, then you should be able to have a selling license and be able to purchase those goods wholesale. These are the types of things that we can go over with you in detail in a one-on-one consultation. How does that work? What do I need? But basically, for the purposes of the registration, is there are certain goods and services that are subject to sales tax and then some aren't. Even though goods are typically subject to sales tax, there are exemptions. And even though services are typically exempt from sales tax, there are exceptions. So later on in the presentation, we do have a link to the booklet that the state provides that goes through almost everything you can think of to determine whether or not what you're doing is subject to state sales tax. If you do have to collect state sales tax, you collect it, and each quarter you remit it back to the state. It's a pretty simple process, but the burden is on you to collect and remit this state sales tax. But definitely have a consultation, talk to one of us. If you're selling online, some of the online services will handle the collection and remitting of the sales tax. So it kind of depends on what you're doing. But the only people who pay New Jersey state sales tax are people who are in New Jersey. So either the transaction happens in New Jersey or you're mailing it. If you're shipping it, the recipient has to be in New Jersey. You'll need to identify a bank and where to open up your business bank account. I always say start with me. Be where you do your personal banking. Perhaps you can get some kind of a deal, or they're running a program and they want to keep your business. But hopefully there is a situation where you can find a business bank account that doesn't charge any fees. You don't want to have to be penalized as a small business owner and pay some sort of monthly fee to keep a bank account open. Here are some links that you'll be able to navigate through once you have access to the slides. What additional licenses or registrations are required of you as business owners? A couple I can think of is the contractor. If you're general contractor, handyman, there's a registration required for that. Home health aides require licensing. Cosmetology, hairdressing, food safety. There are some additional there is some additional paperwork for certain businesses. And so that's something that we can look at, and you can look it up and see if yours requires anything in addition in order to do that in New Jersey. There's the booklet for the sales tax requirements, some information all on the .gov website talking about maybe some income tax requirements, whether or not you need to concern yourself or understand what your requirements are to perhaps pay estimated income taxes as business owners throughout the year. If you're hiring employees, there's some information there. W-2, W-4 is for payroll. Or if you're looking just for an independent contractor, or you're paying out to a vendor a certain amount each year, you would use the W-9 for that person to fill out, and then you would issue a 1099 at the end of the year, and then the burden would be on your contractor to pay his or her own income taxes. And then always there's a consideration for business insurance, if you need any, and whether or not workers' compensation is something that you have to look into. As counselors, we always would like to guide you in any way possible, to mentor you through your startup. Cash needs at startup, very important to have money to start your business, how much you need, what would you need to keep the business going in terms of your operating cash. What is your own personal budget considerations? How much money are you able to initially invest in that business? What are your startup costs, basically? And do you need additional sources of capital in order to get started? We work with banks and lenders and SBA lending. We could assist you in determining if you need additional funding. Is there startup money available through a small business loan? We would help you with the business plan, put your projections together, and basically make sure that you as business owners understand the laws of the financial statements. What is an income statement? What is a balance sheet? It's important because as you navigate your business, if you don't understand the ins and outs of your cash, if you don't have a good handle on whether or not you're taking in more than you're spending, you're not going to be profitable. And that's the goal. So at the end of the day, we want you to be profitable. It may not happen immediately, but it should be working toward that direction. And then we offer courses, some learning labs in QuickBooks, or if you just want to use an Excel spreadsheet or a notebook to document your bookkeeping, that's fine, as long as you're organized. And at the end of the day, you're able to make sure that you know what your expenses have been, what your sales have been, because you will have to file income taxes at some point. Accountants, lawyers, insurance agents, there's a time and a place for all of that. Certainly don't want you to have to spend money unnecessarily. You see what resources are available to you. There are times in your business life cycle where you will need an accountant potentially. Certain things would require a lawyer. I always recommend that you talk to a small business attorney when it comes to trademarking. That's just my personal opinion when I counsel. It's a complicated process. It's a national process. It's a federal process. It takes a while. You want to make sure it's done correctly. And, same goes for an accountant. Certain things are pretty straightforward. Sometimes it can get more complicated. Not bad idea at some point to get a good small business accountant who can navigate and help you with any tricky accounting. At a minimum, it's always good to, I think, understand what deductions are available to you as small business owners. And that's something that an up-to-date accountant would have a good handle on. Lenders, if necessary, not always necessary. It's good to avoid debt if you can, but sometimes it's not a bad thing. If that's going to help you grow, it's going to help you fund a project, get you capital that you need to get your business to the next level. Certainly put you in touch with lenders. And as I said previously, prepare you for a loan application. We have marketing and social media strategists on staff who could help you in that respect. And basically, again, we'd like to be your mentors in your journey from start to growth. We also help businesses with their state certifications if you're interested in procurement and government contracts. And also there's the NJEDA has daily coming out with different loan programs and grants. If you need assistance with those applications, see if you're eligible for any of that. We try to assist there as well in helping you navigate that. And I think that's about it. Please be aware that in addition to webinars like this, we have educational program through our website, through our NJ Thrives program on all different topics. Most have been recorded, so you can go back in the library and see what might apply to you. And with that, what we have here is if you're interested in forming and registering your business, I would recommend that you either use the QR code or when you get a copy of the slides, here's the link. This would get you to our page to be able to sign up to speak with a counselor to form your business and register your business. If you're already in business and have questions on any of the number of topics we discussed today, you can use the second QR code and the second link, which would take you to your local SBDC center, and you'd be assigned a counselor to discuss anything that you would like to. And with that, I'd like to open it up to the Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Vanessa, for all this information. We have been having some questions. I have been trying to answer a couple of them, but some of them are yours. So I'll just start with Anonymous asks, do I have to form an LLC umbrella for dipped out or of state real estate properties, or separate LLC for each state?
You know what, Glorma, can you just repeat that question? Let me see, or is it up here?
Yep. Do I have to form an LLC umbrella for dipped out of real estate properties, or separate LLC for each state? And just a reminder for everyone to please drop your questions in the Q&A box so we don't miss them.
So, okay, so let me just talk within the state first. Yes, if the property is in, let's just talk about New Jersey. If the property is in New Jersey, physical presence is in New Jersey, it's a real estate investment, and you would like to own it through an LLC, that's its own LLC. There's no ruling, I suppose, but I think general practice is that each property would be its own LLC because of the risk associated. So you would have, say, a building here that's one investment. That address would be, that property would be an LLC. If you have a different investment, then that property would be an LLC. It's just a liability issue. That's what I believe is the general practice. If you have an out-of-state real estate investment, say in Pennsylvania, then that would be a Pennsylvania LLC. That building is physically in that state. So you would, if you own a property in a different state, you would own it in the LLC that's domestic to that state.
Great. Another question from Anonymous is that how LLC owner pays himself if it's one person. He has employees too. If he has no employees, I think,
okay.
Yeah, having different situations here.
Yeah. So LLCs owners pay themselves through profit. So there's no expense line item per se when it comes to the accounting of an LLC that says, pay myself, above the line. You have your sales, you have your expenses, and then you have your profit, basically. We'll call it net income. And at the end of the day, that's what you would pull out and pay yourself, and we call it an owner's draw. So again, you can pull out your money anytime you want and take care of what you have to take care of as the owner of your business. But through record keeping, when it comes to reporting your taxes, your contribution to yourself comes from what you pay income taxes on as a business owner is the net income, your sales less your expenses, and then any other deductions that you may potentially take. Now, that's a bookkeeping item. In terms of having employees are an expense, or whether they're W-2 employees or whether they're independent contractors, that's an operating expense. So you would have your sales, you'd have your expenses, whatever your bills you have to pay. And then if you have salaries that you pay, or you have to pay a contractor or a vendor, that's an expense of the business. I hope that answers that.
If not, whoever asked that question, feel free to just follow up. We have a question from Nazareth. She asked, what do you mean by the new registered owner? This is in all state?
You mean the registered agent?
the registered owner.
Oh, what do you mean by the new register owner? This is in all states. I'm gonna guess, I believe, Nazareth, are you talking about the registered agent? I spoke about a registered agent. Every New Jersey LLC, when we go through the formation piece, we have to assign a registered agent to our company. You can be your own registered agent. That means that you are responsible for all the correspondence and you're the point person that the state can get in touch with you if they need to. Some people hire a registered agent. Accountants can serve as registered agents, lawyers, there are registered agent services, but that registered agent address and service has to be approved to be in New Jersey. They're New Jersey locations, I should say.
She just clarified that it's a new law, that you mentioned that it's a new law about registered owner.
Okay, so on the federal end of it, looks like that we're going to have to, as LLC owners, we're going to have to report through, I believe it'll be an online portal, who the beneficial owners are, and basically who the owners of the business are. I have not yet looked at the portal. It's coming up, this is starting in 2024. So anybody who forms and registers in 2024 will have to go through this extra step. To me, it sounds very similar to when we register to do business in New Jersey. You have to let the state know who each of the owners are and what the percent ownership is. That is done at a state level. Sounds like now, federally, we have to report who the owners are of the business and what the percent ownership is. So it'll be an extra step. I believe if you're already an LLC owner, you'll have a year to go in and do that. They'll give you the 12 months in 2024 to get everybody up to speed and their reporting. We'll have more info on that in the new year.
Great. And then another question we have, it's that, what will be the reason not to want to use my personal address as registered agent?
It depends. When you look up a business, the record, the one thing that you'd always be able to find, and that's the whole point, is that you have to be able to find somebody responsible that they can get in touch with somebody from that business. So that's going to be public record, the registered agent. Now, somebody can look you up anyway. So there's always that argument, but there are reasons why certain people do not want to use their personal home address as the registered agent because they don't want to be looked up for their business.
Okay, another question from Anonymous. How long does it take for forming the LLC?
We can have it done in under an hour, about an hour. It's we get it formed. It's all online, walk you through it. Could do it over the phone, or and I'll get to this in a second. We can do it over the phone, get the formation done. We walk you through getting the tax ID number, and we walk you through the registration. We are trying to host at least twice a month in-person classes. So if you'd rather do this in person, or if you'd rather have it in person and have a Spanish-speaking counselor there, or do it with a Spanish-speaking counselor, we have that option as well. So that is something that we're going to be doing. So we just did one yesterday where we had several people in a conference room. It takes a little longer because, there's more opportunity for Q&A and there's, more than one person, but they prefer to be in person to do it because it did open up some questions and we were able to have a little more hand holding. But if you want to do it with one of the counselors over the phone, we can get it done as well. We just walk you through it. You have the computer up and we walk you through it.
Yeah, and for those of you who are trying to register, but you have already registered in the past through our system, you should be able to leave us a note that you want to have consultations with a specific consultant, in this case, Vanessa, that's not the case, feel free to email us so we can take care of that. But you should be able to leave a note and let us know that you want to have consultations with Vanessa. Vanessa, we have another question that says, what if I choose to be taxed as single member, but then hire employees and will need to change? So the question is, if that's the case, will they need to change the tax status?
Okay, so I just want to make sure this is why these are great questions. So we're going to make sure we have all the terminology. Single member LLCs who are taxed as single member LLCs using Schedule Cs, you're allowed to hire employees. That doesn't change how you choose to be taxed. As long as you have an EIN, and you hire and you follow the proper protocol, you could start a payroll. That doesn't impact how you are taxed. But if your question was, can I change how I want to be taxed? Maybe you're asking this: if you are an LLC owner and you want to be on your own payroll and put yourself on payroll, then you do change. There is the option to change your tax filing to be taxed as an S Corp. And then I think that's just something you arrange with your accountant, and you alert the IRS of the change next time your tax filing is due. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's easily changed. I hope that does answer the question.
For those of you asking how you can have consultations with Vanessa or registered to have a meeting with her, I just dropped the link in the chat, so feel free to click on it and request. So another question is, for anonymity, liability, or illegality, should you be sued?
I gotta look at the question. Can you repeat that one, Glorm?
For anonymity, liability, or illegality, should you be sued?
I'm just having a little bit of a hard time hearing.
For anonymity, liability, or illegality, should you be sued?
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Anonymity. Should you be sued? I'm not understanding that question. Oh, for anonymity.
Can
they just expand on what they're asking there?
It says that the question refers to registered agents.
So, okay, anybody can be sued for anything. The issue with the registered agent is usually when there's some kind of legal documentation, the way that they find you is through your registered agent. So you're not anonymous to the registered agent. They'll find your registered agent that's on record, and you'll get the information will be passed to you.
Yeah. They follow up and it says, so if you get sued, how do you keep yourself anonymous?
Oh, that's not, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I don't believe that's an option. You're never anonymous. You're going to be known to somebody, whether it be the IRS or your registered agent. You're not anonymous. Your personal address can be kept off record if you use a registered agent, a hired outside registered agent, but you're never anonymous as a business owner that's a registered business. You exist.
Thank you, Vanessa. So how do you know if your company is dissolved? Opened it many years ago, but never used it.
We can look that up. That happens quite often. People start a business, they form or they register it, and then they abandon it. Not in a bad way, just didn't transpire or for whatever reason. If you want to see if your business is still out there, look it up. NJ Portal, there's a way to look up your business, see if it's still there. If you have not paid your annual dues, then it's when, say, the last 4 or 5 years, you'll see it that you're not in good standing, that your payments are due. If it's more than a couple of years, there's usually a penalty to reinstate your business. So you may have to pay all your back dues and then the penalty. I don't know exactly when that penalty comes up. It's at least about 4 years in. And then at a certain point, sometimes people just they just start fresh. I mean, I can't really say, but if you did form it, if you wanted to see what the status of it is, you can go ahead and look that up. And you can make an appointment. We can help you with that.
Yeah, and I think that answers one question that we got from Alberto, and it says, I have an existing LLC registered in New Jersey, would like to open a pass-through entity in Colorado, where I have an agent, anything I should look out for. Oh, I'm sorry, Drogon actually also asked a question that might be answered by what you just said, that says, I have a sole proprietorship and never used it, but I'm ready now to start my business as an LLC. What do I need to do? I do have an EIN number for my previous business.
Okay, so a sole proprietorship that has an EIN, that in order to then say, I want an LLC, which is perfectly fine, that happens all the time, we have to get a fresh EIN. There has to be a fresh EIN assigned to the LLC. So we just form it from scratch.
Someone says, thank you for the information. Whoever wrote that, thank you for joining us. And they ask, can one person have more than one LLC?
Oh, yes, you can own as many LLCs as you wish. $75 a year to maintain, $128 to form. You can also operate as many businesses as you want under one LLC umbrella. You don't have to open multiple LLCs to run separate businesses. It depends on what you're looking to do. As long as the risks align well with one another, you are permitted to have multiple businesses. You can also have multiple business names, not legal names. You have one LLC legal name, but there is a doing business as or DBA option for an LLC. It's called, in New Jersey, they call it filing an alternate business name. It costs $50 for 5 years to have an alternate business name. And basically that allows you to market yourself in a different capacity if you have different lines of business within the LLC umbrella.
Great. Another question from Indira. She asked, I have already registered my business, but I need funding for the company vehicle. And I have seen lots of people asking about funding. We're going to have, you can always go to our websites for resources. Also through the SBA, you can find lots of information on funding. But we're also having a webinar on funding for 2024 pretty soon. So stay tuned and make sure you register for that. And
oh, I'm sorry.
you can go ahead.
I was going to say, if you have questions about funding, definitely make an appointment. We walk you through it. Usually, if we're looking to go to a loan for a piece of equipment, we'll help you put your business plan together. We'll help you put your projections together. We prepare you for the loan, so to speak. Maybe make an introduction to a lender, see what makes sense. It's credit for a small business owner. Sometimes borrowing money can be tricky in that your personal credit rating comes into play. If you're not in business for a long time, you just started, the lender will typically want to look at the last few years of your tax returns. They'll want to examine your credit, see how it is, what the risk is. If you have good credit, it's helpful. There are sometimes some vendors that we deal with that aren't as concerned about credit. We're concerned about your business plan, what you need the money for. typically, if you're looking for a piece of equipment, collateral's involved, that helps, that translates well for a loan, because you can point to the fact that with the additional equipment, we're going to grow sales by X% because it's going to allow me to do XYZ. That's a good plan. Sometimes it's a little trickier when it's hard to make to prove that the amount of money that you are borrowing is going to yield the right return. But that's the kind of thing that we're here to talk through with you and to help you with.
Yep. Another question. I have an existing LLC registered in New Jersey. Would like to open a pass-through entity in Colorado where I have an agent. Anything I should look out for? And they said that's the same industry, tech.
Okay, so I'm going to ask if, and please confirm if this is what you're asking. Yeah, you have your New Jersey LLC, but you also want to register that same LLC in Colorado as to transact business. So if that's what you're asking, then every state allows for a foreign registration. So for example, you take your LLC and you go to Colorado and you register as a foreign and you go practice whatever that process is in order to do that. If you had so for example, if you had a LLC in Colorado and you wanted to do business in New Jersey, you come to the New Jersey portal, you would form what's known as a foreign, because now you're foreign to New Jersey, and register as a foreign. Same LLC, just registered in 2 different states. So and yes, you would need a registered agent in each state that you're registering in. Same LLC, it's just you do have to do the paperwork for the state that you're physically want to start up in.
Okay, can LLC owner have assigned salary?
An assigned salary?
Yeah.
Well, if you're talking about on the books as an expense line item and on payroll, yes, but you have to be taxed. You can't be taxed as a Schedule C. I believe being taxed as an S Corp allows you to do that. Now, whether or not you want to, in your own mind, know how much money you do the math in your head and how much money you want to make and pay yourself, and that's all fine, but it's not an expense line item. LLC owners, as Schedule C filers, that's when you're the single member LLC, meaning you're the only owner of that business. Or if you're even, I believe, 1065s, the income is drawn from the profits. You pay yourself through profits, not through salary, not through a payroll setup. The payroll setup is reserved for, I believe, if you change your tax filing to an S Corp. These are the types of things that you would want to discuss with an accountant. I'm not an accountant. I'm just, as I understand it, though, that's the general wisdom and fact that LLCs, members, owners, are not employees of their company. They're owners, and they take an owner's draw from their profits to pay themselves.
Correct. So we're getting almost to the end. I'll just share a couple of questions, and if anyone has any questions, again, feel free to register and reach out to Vanessa or to us. One question that we got is that, can one person have more than one LLC?
Can one person have more than one LLC? Yes, you can have as many LLCs as you want. Just remember, there's $75 a year to maintain.
Okay.
And yeah, as long as you stay in good standing and do what you're supposed to do with respect to the forming and registering and filing your annual reports.
In that same order, someone asked if an LLC owner must have a business bank account or if they can operate through personal bank account.
Nope. LLCs must have separate business bank account. That's the requirement. That's the liability protection. That's the point of keeping your assets separate from your business assets. You have to go into a bank and you have to give them your certificate of formation. You have to do. You have to give them your letter from the IRS with the tax ID number that matches your certificate of formation, and you have to open a business banking account.
Great. We're going to be taking a last question. And I have seen multiple of you asking that and saying that you are from a different state. This is the NJSBDC, so we're covering New Jersey. Feel free to Google SBDC. You should be able to find your local SBDC for counseling. And make sure that the information is as specific to your state and that applies to your to what you're looking for. So last question from Kina. They ask, you can have multiple DBAs businesses in LLC umbrella. What is the advantage and disadvantages in doing this? For instance, I have an online boutique and want to start another business for clothing with a different name.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, that would, be up to you. The advantages are it's less expensive ultimately to have one umbrella because you're only paying $75 a year on one LLC. It's one Schedule C filing for your tax return. Each LLC, you would have to have a separate Schedule C. It's makes life easier perhaps in having one business bank account for that one LLC umbrella. It doesn't mean though, I mean, you still should keep separate, you should keep your records clean in that if you have different business lines within your LLC, it's helpful to see what each of your cost structures are for each of your business lines. The online, maybe boutique has a different income statement than your other business. And so you want to keep track of that because you're better off. You're going to manage your business better if you understand the cost structure of each of your businesses. At the end of the day, though, you'll join all your sales numbers, revenue numbers, you'll join all your expense items, and then you'll be able to report your ultimate sales expenses and net income to the IRS and to the state through your Schedule C. And you can market yourself. What's nice about different DBAs within an LLC umbrella is that you can market your online boutique with a certain name because it's catchy and that's how they know you. But now you want to start something different. You want it to be known as something different. You can have a different you can have a different name for that other business line. Where it becomes a problem is if the risk inherent in both of those business lines are different and you're risking assets from one business for the assets of another, you would never, and I don't even know that you would be allowed to. I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer, a real estate lawyer, but wouldn't want to own a piece of real estate or a building or a property with your LLC while driving an Uber with the same LLC. You don't want to get into a car accident and be dealt with, an issue with a lawsuit or any sort of issue where they could take the house away from you. That was the whole point of setting up your LLC, was to separate from your personal so someone doesn't swipe, hopefully the house and all your personal assets away from you. So that's where you would want to be more considerate, I think, of having separate LLCs.
Great. I'm going to take this last two questions just because they are about DBAs. It seems like most of you have questions about that. So they want you to repeat what are the fees for the DBA and the multiple businesses under the LLC umbrella.
I think I just said that. What are the reasons to have a DBA?
Yeah, the fees and the multiple
Oh, the
business
fees.
under the
Yes.
umbrella.
Yes, the fees for DBAs. It's called filing an alternate business name. It's on the portal. The state charges $50 for 5 years, and you can renew at the end of the 5 years. So $50 for 5 years. I guess that's $10 a year to maintain an alternate business name. Your legal LLC is still your legal LLC name, but that alternate business name stays viable for 5 years with that $50. And what was the other part of that question?
The business is under the umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, you can have multiple businesses under your umbrella. Just remember, again, the bookkeeping, everything gets ultimately brought up into that Schedule C, and just have to make sure you're properly insured for what you're doing and that you're not risking any assets or monetary, situation of having assets held within one business if the other business is risky. If you have a risk issue, that's the whole point of the LLC. You'd want to maybe create a separate LLC. And I mean real risk issues. Like, again, I have to use an extreme example. You wouldn't have a real estate investment or a house or a ton of equipment or assets or fleet of cars, and then, I don't know, have some sort of a food delivery business on the side where you could, God forbid, get into a car accident or hit somebody and have your whole business taken away. I have seen in my experience a terrible example of a restaurant owner who was running a delivery business with the restaurant. And this gets tricky, and I'm not even going to begin to get into it, except the fact that the restaurant was ultimately closed down because it was within the LLC umbrella of the delivery, and there was an accident, and ultimately just all the assets were depleted from the restaurant. So you just want to keep things separate. If you have questions about the legality of that type of thing, I would talk to an insurance agent or talk to a small business lawyer if you're not 100% sure if it makes sense.
Well, Vanessa, thank you for everything. Great information as per usual. Everyone, I hope that we answer, or Vanessa answer all your questions. I'm gonna share my screen just to give you some last information and remind you that we're here to support you. I'm gonna leave this for a couple of seconds so you can scan the QR code and register or to start your business and talk with Vanessa. We have also here the link to register. So feel free to book a consultation with her. Hopefully you could scan, and if not, you can always go back to this presentation, the presentation that she shared, and also the recording. I dropped the links in the chat for you to take a look at that. And then just a little reminder that this is going to be our last NJ Tribe Tuesdays for the year. And we're having another webinar coming up on this Thursday, the 14th. That's going to be with Jeannie Rock Bailey. She's also an NJSBDC consultant. And she's going to be talking a little bit about navigating procurement success, tips for successful submissions. Same time, and then you can scan here the QR code to register and have more information. And that's all. Hope to see you all in our upcoming NJ Tribe Tuesdays webinars, and see you next year. Vanessa,
thank you so much
for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too.
Happy holidays, everybody. Happy New Year.